Welcome to Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Mortal Kombat 1. I played on the PS5, it's also available on the Xbox Series S, Series X, PC, and avoid the Nintendo Switch version from what I've seen. At least currently that version is hot garbage. Okay, so brief spoilers if you don't know what happened. Mortal Kombat 1 kicks off with Liu Kang having rebooted the universe, essentially. But in his version of the universe, he has kept not exactly Mortal Kombat, but a combat tournament in place between Earthrealm and Outworld. It's like a sort of friendly thing because, well, Outworld, there are people who would still happily take over Earthrealm given the opportunity. But Liu Kang is trying to find his champion, the individual he will put in the tournament and hopefully win. So you get introduced to essentially the four main characters. There are other Earthrealm characters, but Johnny Cage, Kung Lao, Raiden, who is no longer the God of Lightning, but he's Kung Lao's bestest buddiest foreverest, and Kenshi are essentially the main four that Liu Kang is putting together for the tournament. But of course, nothing can be that simple. Somebody else has nefarious plans behind the scenes. They take lowly Shang Tsung, who is never supposed to be an evil sorcerer, and, nudge him into becoming an evil sorcerer. So that obviously kicks off much grander events, which kick off more events, and that's where you get the story. And I gotta say, overall, I really enjoyed the story. I wasn't always sure where it was going, and I liked that about it, and I especially thought it was fun how it wrapped up. The final battle in this, it was really just kind of hilarious to me, and I'm not going to go into details as to why because that would be just spoilery, but I will say that I really enjoyed it. And they definitely tweaked a lot of the characters, but in good ways. And as you can tell by some of my descriptions, they take characters and kind of change their roles a little bit, but not too far. And like I said, I just really like what they did to reboot the universe. It feels like the Mortal Kombat you know and love, but it has a slightly fresh twist on it. But we'll get on to the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is I enjoy the music in this game, not enough to own it, and none of the songs are quite as dope as we all know the one. But it was a good soundtrack and worked very well with the game, whether you were in combat, whether you were roaming the map in invasion mode, which I'll get into later, just all of those things. I think they did an awesome job for cutscenes and combat. Let's get into the voiceover work, and almost everyone does an awesome job. They really brought the characters to life in an awesome way. I love Shang Tsung's voice actor because it's just cheesy enough, but it totally works. But I'll address it right here now. Megan Fox did a horrible fucking job. I mean, fortunately, she doesn't have too many lines, but man, she has too many lines. Her delivery is so bad, it's like she wasn't even trying to put in any acting effort whatsoever. She may as well have just been reading off of a script aloud. But then, of course, there are the sound effects, which those are great, just in every sense. The cutscenes, they do a great job bringing, Outworld to life, Earthrealm to life. For the combat, those sound effects are bone-crunching and visceral, as they should be for a game like Mortal Kombat. And then we're gonna get on to the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a fighting game. And the first thing I'm gonna say is, I enjoy it, but I'm not great at it. I'm definitely not good enough to compete online. I got ruined in the few matches I attempted, so yeah, we'll leave that there. I do, however, enjoy the game modes that are available. I obviously enjoyed the campaign and the story. I thought that was a lot of fun. Then you've, of course, got the classic towers, which I ran through a few of those, worked my way up, got a few of the endings, etc. And then you can, you can do player versus player or player versus computers in just single matches. And fighting the CPUs or one-on-one player matches is the one place where you got to see the awesome intros, which they used so much in marketing this game, you would expect them in more places. I understand them not being in everything, but they should have at least been in the tower, and they weren't. So when you're in the tower mode, you just go into the match. There's no intro to the match, but when you're just doing a one-on-one, there's the intros, and I was just disappointed that that was really the only place they used those. But the game mode I spent the most time in was invasion mode. It's kind of like Mortal Kombat's own RPG. You have a map, you go from point to point on the map, and each point is a fight or a test your might or some kind of trial. The matches will have different modifiers. Your enemies will have shields and stuff, so sometimes you can only attack them at certain times. The worst modifier is the Chaos modifier, where it just fucks up all of your controls, so back is down and, just all sorts of random fuckery that changes constantly. Makes it difficult and frustrating in those matches, but overall I still had a lot of fun going through Invasion. One thing I want to say is I think this game was honestly better than Mortal Kombat 11 because it felt a bit more like Mortal Kombat X. Mortal Kombat 11, a lot of the mechanics felt like they were much more geared towards competitive players, like professional competitive players and tournament play kind of stuff. Whereas I would say Mortal Kombat X and then Mortal Kombat 1 kind of hit a good level of easy to enter, harder to master, but if you're still that lower level player like myself, you can still have a lot of fun with it. Now, unfortunately, they did throw in a bunch of microtransaction type stuff that is disappointing, but it is all cosmetic, so you can survive it. And of course, like any game like that, there are multiple currencies. There are currencies you unlock from playing the Invasion mode, and there's a lot of skins and items you can get from that. So it's kind of nice that you can just play the Invasion mode and unlock a ton of that stuff. I unlocked a bunch of different costumes and add-ons to my characters through that. But of course, there is a currency that costs actual money, so that, sucks. Which leads me into your character customization. I feel like they toned that back just too much, quite frankly. Each of the characters only has one item for customization. In the case of Johnny Cage, it's his sunglasses. The ninjas, it's their masks. Some of the characters, it'll be their weapons. I think they could have gone more in depth with that. Yes, each character does have more costumes, but not as many as I would have liked to see. I hope there's more coming. Which, when it comes to that, you basically, the more you play as a character, the more you unlock. You will unlock costumes, you will unlock fatalities. Also, this game has the cameos, which is basically another character that you pick. And some of these characters are like classic Sub-Zero, classic Scorpion, but you can use them in battle. You can have them come in and do one of their special attacks. They have their own fatalities that you can trigger. I mean, there's a good amount of stuff going on in this game, but a few of the things do feel like they were pulled back just a bit more than I would have liked. But my biggest complaint is the always online feature of this game. There was a stretch over the weekend where the servers were down, so you couldn't play Invasion at all. If you played the towers, you weren't going to unlock any rewards. There was a time where I was playing the Invasion and the server blinked off for half a second, so I got kicked out of what I was doing. So I just find that really disappointing, especially when you're doing single player shit. The always online element fucks with it. That's garbage. Let's get into the controls. And first thing I'm going to say is I think the controls are great. I think they work very well. I find them very responsive and easy to use, and they just functioned the way I wanted them to. But let's get onto the graphics and visuals, and it's a great looking game. I think this is a phenomenal looking game. I mean, I really can't point out an element of this game from a visual standpoint that I wasn't happy with. I think each of the character designs, while they are different from, what you've seen before because they rebooted the universe, you still know these characters, how they used some of these characters visually to fill roles that you're anticipating. For the cutscenes, the facial capture, just the animation there is awesome. Some of the fights that happen in cutscenes are just so cool and well choreographed. But then you have the world, most of it taking place in Outworld. You have these really fantastical areas, and some of them you will very much recognize, but the way they've done them, they've remade them for this reboot, is awesome, because you recognize them, but it feels new. Which also applies to anywhere in the Earth realm. I think all of that, they did such a great job with rebooting the characters and the world, but at the same time, keeping it familiar. Because so many of these areas, so many of these characters are really iconic. But then there's the actual, fighting that you do, and all of that looks fantastic too. Whether it's the effects, the hitting, just the special moves are so well animated, the special effects around them are awesome, and they just look better than they've ever looked before, which is obviously what you want from the newest iteration of the franchise. And one of my favorite things is, I felt like Mortal Kombat 11 did some things that kind of censored the X-ray moves and the fatalities. It really felt like they were shying away from their roots. But Mortal Kombat 1 feels like they just went back to fully embracing it, making it as visceral and gory as they once did. So, as an old school Mortal Kombat fan, I love that. Okay, so to wrap this up, I think it's pretty easy to see where I'm going with this. I really enjoyed this game. While it isn't perfect, I wouldn't even say it's the perfect Mortal Kombat. I do really think in some ways it was a step up from Mortal Kombat 11 and kind of returned to Mortal Kombat X, which I definitely loved. So I loved that return in this game. I am disappointed by a few things, always online, monetization, but sadly that is the world we live in. But that being said, I really loved this game. I was really happy with the overall experience. So I have no problems recommending this game. If you're a fan of fighting games, this is a fun game. Okay, in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, what was your first Mortal Kombat game? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one. I like playing as Reptile, because he can death roll you like a crocodile.